When it comes to CGI animated films in the 2000s, it was unarguable that Pixar was the clear winner due to its recognizability with nearly all their films. Their films were memorable to remember and left specific marks on children's minds. While their only real competitor at the time, Dreamworks Animation, failed to have that same level of cadence with each of their films at the time. Meanwhile, at the same time, Dreamworks Animation, their only real competitor in that space at the time, failed to get that same level of recognition for all of their films, only having a few mainstream successes such as Shrek, Madagascar, and by the tail end of the decade, Kung Fu Panda, while their other films such as Flushed Away, Shark Tale, and Monsters vs. Aliens failed to get that same mainstream success that they were hoping for. By the time the 2010s were about to begin, a new decade was about to start. And with Pixar bringing out the big guns with Toy Story 3 in 2010, sadly Dreamworks Animation also chose that year to wrap up their Shrek franchise with the release of Forever After. Thus means they also have to kick off the new decade strong as well on their end, delivering films that not only are memorable, but as well as able to kickstart brand new worlds for new stories to be told for the next decade. They thankfully did just that. They managed to create and find one of those films that were not only just memorable, but in fact actually spawned up one of the greatest animated sagas that motion pictures have ever seen. Even to now, as of today, it was so memorable that it became the first ever DreamWorks animated film to be remade in live action. But it all began with that original film that no one expected to kick off the way it did. This is After the Theater for How to Train Your Dragon. Some of the best or the most successful films came from being adapted works of some of the most beloved and most cherished of books. From The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, even to recently The Wild Robot, many people didn't even know that How to Train Your Dragon actually started as a book series. Written by Cressida Cowell, the success of her first few books were enough to garnish the attention of DreamWorks Animation, who eventually made a pitch to buy the media franchise rights to her entire book series in 2004. Movement on a potential adaptation did spring along a couple years later when producer Bonnie Arno just hopped off creating Over the Head, which, sidebar, was a really great film. You should go check it out when you get a chance. Chose to push a How to Train Your Dragon adaptation as their next project over at DreamWorks Animation, picking out a trio of directors of Peter Hastings, Lauren Cook, and David Soren to helm the adaptation, choosing in a direction to just do a one-to-one adaptation of the original book. The downside to this approach is that the original books was meant for younger kids. It was against DreamWorks Animation's own mantra of trying to cater to the entire family in order to get as more people into the seat compared to their competitor Pixar was doing with their films at the time. This would have definitely affected their box office profitability at the time, so DreamWorks Animation co-president Bill Damaschke actually decided to step in, remove the original trio of directors, and hire in the Lilo and Stitch directing duo of Chris Sanders and Dean DeBoss to take over the film. They decided to make a new story that respected the original books, but as well as to make one that was more mature, more dynamic, one that was more compatible with the CG animation that they were trying to push along technology at the time to create a brand new wonderful experience out of it. And it all played out to be, as the film was released in early spring of 2010, only in theaters. We begin on the Isle of Berk, as our narrator sets the stage for a look at his world, the fellow natives of Vikings, and a seemingly never-ending conflict with dragons. On one fateful night, Hiccup, essentially the Isle's residential messer-upper, attempts to bag his first dragon kill in his own style. Although he does successfully catch one, the unconvinced reactions from his father, the chief as well as the other Vikings, brushes him off to no belief. Despite everything going against him, his decision-making afterwards would not only change his entire life, but also the way how everyone sees how life can truly be without prejudice and conflict, in hopes of making a better path forward. The story was a really well done one, focusing on the always current conflict between two different sides and honestly would benefit from spending real time and communicating with each other to iron out their differences. While in this specific case being only the former and not the latter, but still focusing on that one side failing to really sit down and understand the other. It still makes for a good stage to throw Hiccup and later Toothless into the mix to shake up that existing dynamic. I will say for minor spoilers that even if Vikings had taken the time to let dragons just be uninterrupted to learn about them, since the antagonistic force would prevent that sort of thing from commonly happening, so there really wouldn't have been a natural opportunity for a resolution to occur without fate stepping in, which honestly speaks to the true crux of the entire film, which is of Hiccup and Toothless. Hiccup, as mentioned before, being the underdog and the one Viking whose status is quite questionable, only wanted a chance to shine and find his place. His personality defined it by attempting to impress his father, woo the girl he loves, and honestly just trying to feel accepted. Someone of his age is commonly going to run into this issue of finding their place in life and just wanting to be accepted by family, friends, or a larger group. He does lead into his underdog side during the movie's events, showcasing more brain than brawn, which arguably helps him out to get to be essentially a bigger threat than his own father, the Chief Stoic. Jay Baruchel does a great job voicing the character, ranging his performance to showcase his growth from a bumbling teenager to an inspired leader. Toothless, despite being a dragon, is still a character in his own right, being essentially billed as the unstoppable force that he is, who really is not what you seem. Going for a don't judge a book by its cover approach, Toothless is the bridge of connecting the old outlook to dragons to the reality of them. I love that basically they are giant cats to an extent, reminding me of my own when watching the film as a kid to an adult. From the start being on the defense ready to strike Dragon towards Hiccup, but as time goes on realizing he's just a big softie with a sassy flair when he decides to unleash it. Despite not being able to speak, his actions via movement carry a lot of weight. Not a pun for how massive he is, yet only to describe that his energy changes the scene to with a lot of heart or with a lot of suspense, which makes him equally as important as Hiccup. Moving into the rest of the Burkians, we have Hiccup's peers, which for anime movie standards does only get the bare minimum of the runtime, besides Astrid, Hiccup's crush. Astrid being essentially the top Viking in training, for her who all she really wants to do is just to be valuable to the village and succeed in everything she wants to do, being a little bit blind to the outside elements. Though similar to what Hiccup goes through, being able to witness the beauty of dragons allows her to have that change of perspective that Hiccup was striving to hope for the others to go for, which also lets her see Hiccup for who he truly is, breaking her old safeguards and evolving in herself. The rest of the others, Snoutloud, Fishlegs, and Rough and Tough, arguably are just there for comedic effect, being more along the lines of traditional teens who don't let the outcast be. They do have their own unique flares though, Fishlegs being the lovable smarty pants, Snoutloud being the macho man, and Rough and Tough being the funny dimwits. Leading the group in a way is Gobber, who is essentially the right-hand man of the chief, as well as the one responsible for all the teens in Berg. He does have a caring side compared to the other Vikings, being the first one to showcase concern and helpfulness for Hiccup when even his own father failed to get there first, as well as balancing when he needs to be a real teacher to when he is about to go on some grand nature of comedy or storytelling. Craig Ferguson does a great job balancing those two elements to make him a roundabout character to be behind for. Leading last into is Stoic the Vast, played by the powerful Gerard Butler. Honestly, in terms of dad figures, he is someone that I believe, depending on the specific age you watch him in, it changes your viewpoint on him. As a kid, not only would one view him as a cool badass dad, but also one who is rude and not understanding to what their kids need. But as an adult, and more importantly as a parent, it can be relatable to understanding another person, let alone your child, trying to find what is best for them in both what they want and what you think is the right approach. Regardless of what angle you view the character, you see the moral argument of him trying to be a dad, but also a Viking to Hiccup, to see what he should do for his son. But I will say I love the range Gerard has to be either super happy or super dead serious at times, managing to form two different perspectives of the same character. Yet I'll still fault him for not just listening out to Hiccup and being open-minded to whatever he has to say. That's the duty of a parent. The true heart of this film, as I touched upon early on, was the genuine slow bond and connection between Hiccup and Toothless. I know, it goes without saying. Even just the slow burn in the first third of the movie was the clinch for me, as it's a perfect representation of two people slowly letting the other into their own personal zone. Toothless slowly becoming more humorous to both Hiccup and the audience was sweet to see, again proving that to never judge a book by its cover. From going to defensive mode to being close and cuddly, it was honestly one of the rare on-screen pairings that hits hard to home for everyone, especially for pet owners. Cuteness aside, seeing their trust grow to the stage of becoming an unstoppable pair was so epic to see. I still get chills when the two of them are leading the Red Death away and seeing the reaction from the other Vikings. Though I'm pretty sure Toothless could have not chomped Hiccup's leg that hard to get a firm grip on it, but I get it, life or death moment here, but still. 2010 was a very important year to me. I had to deal with new experiences as well as to deal with a whole new way of living with my family. Movies in that year hit the hardest, as it seemed like time was very much more important than it ever was to me. With that said, I view How to Train Your Dragon with a lot of nostalgic love. It was just such a comfort movie that I needed to watch during that time period. It brought along such a comforting feeling, and it brought me a sense of relief and joy that a film at the time really could ever give me. I really liked this film when I first saw it in theaters over 15 years ago, and while it did spawn out to a multimedia franchise with a couple of TV shows, a couple of direct-to-DVD shorts, and even a whole trilogy to boot. This particular movie, on its own, just showcases to all different types of viewers that you can make an impact. No matter who you are, what your background is, anyone is capable of changing the game in whatever field you're in. in whatever section of life that you happen to be yourself in. And with that being said, I give this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars, or my personal ranking of a large popcorn and a soda. Let me know down below, what did you think of the original How to Train Your Dragon? Did you love it? Did you like it? Let me know down below. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. But until then, that's going to do it for me today, everyone. This has been Joe here from ActionX. Thank you so much for watching another installment of After the Theater. If you want to see more of us, please subscribe to us here on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Please like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring that bell and follow us on social media for more. But until we see each other again, thank you again for watching. Please stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.